What's up, Gabe? How's that bow shooting? What's going on? If you guys got any questions, let me know. I'll be answering any archery related questions here. If you have one you desperately want answered and you're short on time, if you hit that little money sign up in the corner there, it puts you puts you at the top of the list. Florida, Brian, right on. Swartofibulin, no topic in particular. We're just going to be doing any questions people have about whether it's tuning or shooting or form or whatever. LD White, getting into competitive archery. Spend more money on lessons and less money on equipment. If you go to the USA Archery website, they have a list of all the certified coaches in your area. I would try and find somebody level 3 or higher and spend more money on lessons than you do equipment out of the gate. You can buy the most expensive bow on the market, and if you don't know how to shoot it, you're not going to hit any more X's than you will with a $300 bow from Cabela's. Sean Moran, Matthews Traverse versus 2020 flagships. I'm still shooting my Traverse. I love it. It's still in the lineup this year, and that's totally personal preference. You know, a lot of people, depending on your draw length and string angle and anchor point and all that, you know, may not be the right bow for you, but I love it. I think it's tough to beat. I wish they had the switch weight mods on it, but that's all right. Soko forever. Thanks. Opinion on the Trophy Ridge H5. I don't have one because I haven't really messed with one. Brent Mattis. Yes, I believe the Spot Hogwise guy is a great release. Pretty much any release that you start getting into a no travel trigger where you can adjust the tension on the trigger is going to bump up into that $150 range. So definitely worth it. Big Johnson. Need help. What you got? .340 Axis, 27 inches at 67 pounds. That sounds a little stiff to me. I don't know what your draw length is, but if you're getting an odd one every once in a while, it's probably because those arrows are a little stiff. Johnny Clark, TrueBall Blade Pro Flex Release. Have you tried it? Can you review it? I have shot one before. I have the normal blade. It's a great release. The Flex just allows you to play with the fingering position. So still got all the adjustability in terms of like travel and tension in the trigger, but you have that added adjustment in the fingers. Opinion on Black Eagle arrows. I like them. I think they make great shafts. Gavin Calciano dropping $5. All right. 27-inch draw, Big Johnson. Yeah, you're definitely stiff with an arrow like that. Spines are actually calculated at 28 inches when the arrow's cut at 28 inches. So if you are shorter than that 28 inches, you're actually stiffer than a true 340. You're probably like a 320 or 300 spine. So definitely a little bit stiff. Gabriel Sininger, hi. Hey, what's up, man? How's that shoulder? A video on the drop effects of rain on arrow flights. So, Mike Leahy, you're not going to get any difference if it's a dry arrow and you shoot it. Just the rain falling on it is not going to hurt it unless it's like crazy hail or something. But what does happen if you're out in the rain for a while, water gets on your arrow, and more importantly, your string absorbs it. So your string gets heavier, your arrow is heavier, everything slows down. So generally, if it's raining really hard, like at Reading a couple years ago, I was adding 2 or 3 clicks or 2 or 3 yards to all my yardages. Big Johnson, I would go 400s. I think even with a 125, you're going to be too stiff. Chase Hurst, back tension for hunting. I covered this in one of my videos. If you practice with it enough to where it's just kind of subconscious, I think it's great. The only thing I worry about is, if I have to get a shot off in a really short amount of time through a small window, or if I have an animal that's moving through the trees, there's kind of a point of no return on them, and if they take a step right at that second when the arrow fires, which I guess you could say is true of any release, it can be a little sketchy. I'd probably use a thumb button instead. Shoot it the same way you would a hinge, but just use a button. That way you can just take your thumb off the barrel if that animal takes a step. Will Schouch, best stabilizers for target archery. Bee Stinger, Spider, and Conquest Archery. Probably Conquest are the best though. Big Johnson, go 400 spine. 400 spine will fly a lot better for you. Jordan, the left yoke on your prime touches your cam at full draw. I would put it in a draw board and see if it actually rubs against it while the cam is rotating forward again, or if it's just up against it at full draw. I probably shouldn't do that. You might play with that flex guard a little bit and run that a little closer to the riser. That'll probably alleviate it. Outdoors, considering switching to iron wheels from Kudu this season. I think they're going to be both pretty similar in terms of they're both, a solid cut on contact, single blade head. That being said, the iron wheels do have those little bleeder blades, which is kind of nice. I don't think the iron wheels are single bevel, which means they don't spin. So the only time I've noticed an issue with single blade heads like that, like the Magnus Buzzcut Stinger or something, is they don't leave a lot of blood, just because they're not twisting through the animal. Once they hit, they're just making a little slot, a little slice, so they don't seem to leave as much blood. Matthew's verdict's 28, 65, 300, or 340. 340 axis. Ben Suntkin, 300 would be way too stiff for you at 28 inches, 28 and a half inches and 65 pounds. LD White, my thoughts on the TrueBall Goat. They're definitely sweet. Got a lot of versatility there. There's a lot of guys shooting them. Rather than buying 2 releases, you just buy 1. I like them. Bill Brink, glad you got a new bow, man. Timothy Hostetler, what are your thoughts on dovetail mount versus standard mount on sights? Dovetail mounts are great. You can, really play around with the distance from your bow and get it to fill up your peep sight just how you want. Lots of guys see Cam Hanes running theirs all the way out from the bow, and the problem with that is that everything gets magnified. Like any torque you have is going to show up more in your sight. People say it's more accurate. It's not more accurate, it's more responsive. The same amount of clicks in my sight will not move my point of impact as far when it's extended out like that. You'll also see more pin float the further it is from your bow. So if you shoot a lot, you can learn to control that pin a little better. The other thing is that it will increase the gap between your yardages the further that sight runs out. So if you're trying to get a lot of yardage out of your sight, run that sight closer to your bow. But dovetails are nice because you can put it wherever you want. Texas State Fishing, do some videos of us hunting. I always think about that, and when I'm out hunting, when I got animals working, it's like the last thing on my mind to pull out my camera. I need to hire a cameraman. I'm not good enough hunter to do both. I'm no Remy Warren. Andrew Chorba, VXR 31.5, pin dropping out of the bottom at full draw. That's usually an alignment issue, so could be draw length, could just be you need to get either that front shoulder down a little bit, front or back shoulder. If my back shoulder is really high, as I pull through, it pulls that front arm down. Conversely, if my front shoulder is high and inside, essentially my shoulder acts like a hinge, and as I aim, it starts to break down and that pin starts to drop. So your shoulders need to be level. Usually it's a sign of kind of a short draw length. So Andrew Plyler, I'm not sure on your sight what's going on there. If your rest is centered, it should be good, but if you had to move your rest way outside of center, like way left to get a bullet hole, move that thing back to the middle and use the top hats to tune. Todd Wolf, 28 and a half inches, 70 pounds, 340, Axis 340 all day, or any 340 spine. Target panic drills, Jeremy Harker, that is actually going to be the video this week, so stay tuned for that. Arrow outserts, Dave Coates. Outserts are tough. There's only a few good ones on the market, I feel like. It's just another point of connection there that if it's not perfectly square or you get dinged up, that arrow is going to wobble a little bit, and that's going to cause really inconsistent flight. Adam Smith, VXR 31 or Hoyt Ultra. That's a tough one, man. Both are awesome bows. I'd shoot them both, see which one fits you better, which one you're more comfortable with. One is not inherently more accurate than the other, but one might be more comfortable to you, which means it's going to be more accurate for you. Gavin, with the money question. All right. Kellen, question for you. Do companies tune their bows before they ship them? That is a great question. The answer is no. And I get people all the time that say, oh, my shop said that Mathews, they tune the bow with the top hats before they send it, and that's just absolutely not true. They do not have the time. They're just trying to get bows out the door. They put the most common size top hats in the cams there, slap the axles and the cams on, and get them out the door. So they are not taking the time to tune your bow. So if your pro shop guy or technician says, hey, I don't want to tune this because they already do it, they're lying. And you need to be the one shooting the bow. Don't let them tell you that they tuned it for you, because the chances of your grip and their grip being the same are very different. 29-inch draw, 60 pounds. What spine, please? Probably 340, Kevin McAllister. You might be able to get away with a 400 if you cut your arrow at like 28 inches, but to be safe, if you're going to err a little on the stiff side, I'd go with a 340. Ben Suntkin, favorite whitetail broadhead. Never shot a whitetail, don't know. But for deer, I like, for any mechanical head, those Grim Reapers are awesome, like the Pro 3 or the Carnivore. They even have one called the Whitetail Special, but they're super sharp. They don't require the hide to open the blades. There's actually little cam locks when they hit. The blades deploy before they actually hit the hide, so you get massive entry and exit wounds. Chompo, the Stand Extinction 2. So far, I really like it. I've been shooting my B3 Hawk for a year now. One thing that I do like about the Stand, though, is that you have a little more adjustability in that trigger, which is really nice. It grouped really well. I would need to shorten up my loop about 1/8 of an inch probably. It's just a little bit longer than my Hawk, and I run a really short release, so I like getting that trigger buried in my finger. But it's a great release, super accurate, reliable. Yeah, I love it. Ian Baker, shooting a Mathews Traverse at 70 pounds, 75% let off. Valley is extremely short. You can't. So the whole point of the lower let off, Ian, is to shorten up that valley. The deeper the valley, the more let off you're going to have. So the idea with the lower let off is that cam doesn't have to take that extra split second getting out of the valley. It just immediately starts rotating forward, which is why it's technically more forgiving, because there's just from the moment the release fires to when the arrow gets off the string is just a fraction of a second less, which means you have less time to screw stuff up. So nope, there is no way to change the valley unless you go to higher let off. Left or right helical and how to determine which one to shoot. Alex Genero. Really simple test. Take one of your arrows, like a bare shaft of one of your arrows, mark with like a silver Sharpie on the back of it, index it so that line is facing straight up, and shoot a target at like 6-7 feet away, and you will see which direction it rotates to. Generally, 90% of them are going to rotate left, ironically, because 90% of clamps that you buy are right. But, like I said, it's an easy test. It seems to have to do with the way the string twists. So some strings twist left, other strings twist right. Seems like left twisting strings rotate the arrow to the right, right twisting strings rotate them to the left. Blaine Jolly, best stabilizer for beginners just getting into it. I mean, most of your good actual stabilizers are going to be about 60 bucks, 60 to 80 bucks. You want an all carbon bar with all the weight right at the very end. If it's just a little rubber dampener, you're not going to get any stabilization. It's just going to add mass weight. So Spider, Bee Stinger, Conquest, 365 Archery, Doinker, all those are good. For short bars, any 8 to 10 inch bar is more or less going to be the same. What are your thoughts on the QAD Exodus Broadhead? Nate Martin. Love it. I shoot it. 350 Coco, VXR 29.5, 75 pound, Axis 340 or 300. Definitely 300, 100%. 340 is going to be too light for you. Thumb release versus wrist strap. Is it worth it price wise? Totally depends. Kevin McAllister. You got to learn. I mean, you want to take the time to learn how to shoot any release well, but an index style, if you get a little punchy on it, is going to be more forgiving. Thumb buttons, when you punch or flinch, that whole hand tends to kind of flinch away from the face. Whereas even if you punch an index style, as long as you keep your bow arm in the shot, usually you're still going to hit pretty close. So is it worth it? Just depends on if you want to spend the money and time to learn how to shoot it. David Hassinger, recommended size, peep size for hunting. Usually like an 1/8 or 3/16. 3/16 is probably most common. That's what we install in like 95% of our bows unless they ask elsewise. Otherwise. Wheelchair Mafia, glad they helped, man. What do you use? Dusty Bow Hunter, what do you use to mount a back bar on the Matthews? There's a lot of different bar mounts. Some bows have threads on the back of the riser that you can mount it right to. Other ones you have to buy an adapter that actually screws into your stabilizer hole. Then your front stabilizer screws on to quick disconnect, and then there's another mount on the back or on the side of it for your back bar. Matthews makes a good one. Shrewd makes a good one. Spider makes a good one. Bee Stinger makes a good one. There's a lot of them. Joe Young, what's up, dude? Take on the new AAE rest Cam is demoing. It's a cable-driven rest, so not my favorite. I prefer limb-driven, but it seems like it was pretty well made. The little launcher on there, it just looks really chintzy, but I mean, you can't seem to bend it, so that's good. Michael Gagliardi, how do I learn to become a bow mechanic? There's no school or anything like that. Honestly, best thing to do is, it's kind of tricky. There's not a lot of videos on it because, pro shops make money fixing people's bows, so they don't want to give away all their secrets. But my advice would be go to, a reputable shop, ask if they have any openings. Lots of times, in midsummer and fall, they need extra help. I know we do. So that's a good way to kind of get your foot in the door. Texas State Fishing, do I do target archery? Yes, definitely. It's probably, up until about June, I would say I shoot my target bow 95% of the time. I used to compete a lot. I haven't in recent years just because, kind of ironically, when you start working in an archery shop, you don't get to compete because you're always working on the weekends. But I do coach. I got a couple kids that I go to these USA archery shoots with, so we travel all around and I coach at those. Branson Allen, 4 vanes or 3? For any field point, 3 vanes is going to be plenty. I feel like with broadheads, having a little more drag there to steer the arrow right out of the gate doesn't hurt anything, especially if you're shooting a big, high-profile fixed blade. But I've tested them both out of a well-tuned bow. They shoot pretty much the same. The 4-fletch, just at distance, like at 60 yards, I was about 4 inches low with the 4-fletch just because of that extra drag. If you're going to shoot a lower profile vane, like I shoot the AAE, the hybrid 23s, and they're 2.3 inches long, but they're only about, 0.4 inches tall. Because they're lower profile than, say, like a Blazer, I run 4 because I want to get that drag going as quickly as possible. Ramsey McCoy, 30.5 inch draw, 70 pounds. Easton Hex cut at 30 inches with 50 grain inserts. You're kind of right on the cusp there, man. I would think you'd probably be okay. Maybe you're definitely. You're definitely getting dangerously close to being weak spine there. I think if you went to the 260s, it wouldn't hurt anything, especially with a broadhead. Ben Suntkin, what hunting camo and gear do I like? I like Kuiu, First Light, Sitka. Actually, our Sitka rep, well, he's our rep for Crispy, but he also is the rep for Sitka, and he's awesome, and he's sending us basically just our wish list. So I'm going to be running Sitka this next year. Make Hunting Great Again is going to hate me for it, but that's all right. They make great stuff. Rhino 2098. When tying D-loop, how much gap should be left in the knock area? Do you serve inside the loop for knock points? I do serve inside the loop. I don't cinch him up completely tight because at full draw, when that string angle increases, it'll end up pinching your knock. So I mean, it's just the slightest little rattle between the top and bottom tie. I mean, I'm not gonna. It's probably a 32nd of an inch maybe that I can move that arrow back and forth, just so that it's not actually tight against it. Like I'd say, one little serving above and below. Good hunting weight arrow and practice weight arrow. Awesome, pleb. Well, you probably want to practice with what you're going to hunt with. You don't want to practice all year with one arrow and then just switch to another one that's heavier for hunting. So a good hunting weight, anything between that like 430 and 530, just depending on your draw length and draw weight and all that. Corey Worthington, do you swap top hats on Mathews bows with the purchase, or is it additional? We have a bunch of top hats that we swap out for you if you purchase the bow from us. If you're doing it on your own, you have to actually buy a kit from Mathews. Glenn Price, thoughts on Sirius arrows? Don't have any because I've never even heard of them. How do you know what way the strings twist? Put it in a press and pull off the string. Just undo one side, and if it gets tight, if it twists up when you turn it to the right, it twists to the right. Ease method. So to set the let off on a prime, basically, you want to match. If you want to go less, you need to go lower in number. So if your draw length is set on 4, if you set the draw stop on 4, it's going to be, like 80%, 85%. If I go closer to 3, I'm going to get less let off. If I go higher in numbers, it's going to get lower let off, or higher let off, sorry. Dusty Bowhunter, does cam lean at rest even matter? Unless it's extremely severe, no. Bows with yokes are designed to lean the cam one way or the other. That's how they're engineered to be tuned. So people freak out about it. On a right-handed bow, though, if you have to put way too much lean in it, what will happen is your top draw stop will actually pull past your cable at full draw, and it can actually like lock up. It's super dangerous. So you don't want to go extreme, but I mean, if it's just a couple degrees one way or the other, that's how it's designed to be shot. Todd Limburger, 26-inch arrow, 70 pounds, 340 IBO. Yeah, definitely not going 340, but 420 grain arrow, including broadhead. Is that enough where I hunt to shoot elk from 40 yards? You're definitely at 420. You're definitely on the light end, but at your draw length, it's going to be hard to find an arrow that is heavy in the spine you need. If you wanted to bump that up, though, you could probably go with like an Easton FMJ 340. Or like an Axis 340 with 75 grains of brass in the front. At 26 inches, 340, no matter pretty much how much weight you put up front, is still going to be good. Blue Collar Kid. Hey dude, I'm shooting 46 pounds, 26-inch draw, Easton Axis, cut to 27 inches. Yeah, you can totally drop a deer. The owner's daughter here shot 3 bucks 2 years ago, and she pulls like 42 pounds at 23 inches. Blew right through 3 different deer. Freedom Factory, what would be my bow of the year pick? That's a good question. I mean, I'm a big fan of Mathews. I was really impressed by the Prime, that Black 5, in terms of how efficient it was with heavy arrows. I would say PSE probably gets Most Improved Player of the Year award. I think they made the biggest jump from last year to this year in terms of how those bows aim, shoot, tune, all that. Hoyts are great too. Any of the big ones are great, really. It's going to be what's most comfortable to you. The bar system, Mike Lutz. I don't use the bar system, but they do seem to toughen up the front of those arrows a lot. You got the VXR, Donovan Stockton. Also have the Verdix, Halon 32, and the Expedition. Which one to hold and sell? Man, I'd probably get rid of your Expeditions, or your Expedition, probably your Halon 32, because the VXR is basically the same in terms of like axle to axle and all that. So maybe save your Verdix in the VXR. Jerry W, what's a good skinny shaft for outdoor target, long distance, and also what fletching? So pretty much all outdoor shafts for like field shoots or FITA, you're gonna be real small diameter, so like Easton Pro Comps, ACEs, the Gold Tip, Pierce series, like the Pierce Tours, Carbon Express makes some too, but any of the light or the real small diameter shafts, I think Black Eagle makes like the X Impacts as well, but you want I wouldn't say a heavy arrow, but a heavier arrow that's small diameter is not going to get as much wind drift, and then you can also stack 4 or 6 of them in a dot and not worry about skip outs as bad. Adam Doughton, Prime versus Elite. I mean, they're both good bows. It's going to be whatever you like. I like how Elite's tune. At least the new one with the limb pocket thing. It's pretty cool. Kevin McAllister, any tips for hunting out west? Get in shape, bro. No, I mean, some states are easier than others to hunt in terms of like getting a tag. Oregon, you can just buy an out-of-state tag and 90% of the state is open, but we do not have nearly the elk and deer numbers that states like Montana and Wyoming and all those states do. Pedro Silva, do you like Matthews strings? Is it better to buy new ones? Matthews strings are probably some of the better stock strings on the market, honestly. Hoyts are just absolute stretch monsters, those fuse strings that come with it. I haven't had good luck with Vapor Trails either, but Matthews, I think they're worth wearing out. You're probably going to need to redo your timing and retune a couple times in the first 1,000 shots or so. So generally what I do is I just kind of slap it all together, shoot it for a couple weeks, and then once I'm convinced all the stretch is out of the strings, then I'll tune it. That way I'm not just tuning and retuning, tuning and retuning. Donations welcome. Chompo, I am still shooting my Traverse. One of my favorite bows I've owned in a long time. Just Honest, been looking at a back bar. If you're not hunting, there's bows undoubtedly aim better with a back bar on them. So if you're not hunting, where it's kind of cumbersome carrying it around, do it. If you're shooting target, absolutely throw a back bar on there. Donovan Stockton, a better broadhead than the Iron Wills for $225 for 6 of them? I don't think so. No, they're great heads, man. I mean, super tough, penetrate great. Chase Dixon, where do you get gas strings? You can probably look up their dealer locator on their website, or you can order them straight from Gas themselves on their website. Gabriel Hine, what do I do when I accidentally dry fire my bow and one of the brass string keepers that are heat shrinked on the bow flies off? You probably need to get your bow looked at, because if it derailed, if that flew off, it probably bent one of your cams. Just don't dry fire your bow, guys. Always load an arrow. Even if you're just checking something at your house, load an arrow. It's cheaper to fix a hole in your drywall than it is to buy new limbs and cams. Todd Limburner, do you feel compound bows have topped out speed-wise? So they can build a bow that'll go 400 feet a second. It's just, with the current technology, you can't hit anything with them. There's so much stored energy there. There's no valley, super stiff draw cycle. So right now, that 340, 350 mark kind of seems to be the ceiling where you can still make a really shootable bow and an accurate bow and still have good speed. Adam Doughton, what's up with the Precision Academy? I want to know too. No, it's just taking longer than we thought. In terms of the editing and reshooting certain things, the portion we did on the range here, it's really echoey, even though I was wearing a mic. So we're in the process. We've got the rough edit all down. It's just, it's long. It's 4 hours and 15 minutes long. So going through scene by scene and making notes is just really time-consuming process, especially working 6 days a week. So, Gabriel Sininger, what's your opinion on Hoyt? Buy a Matthews. No, I'm just kidding. How long is the wait for gas strings? Do we have any in stock for the VXR 28 Hunting Maverick? I don't have any in stock, but they're usually, from the day we order them, we have them about a week later. They recently just swapped factories. They got a bigger factory, so they're a little bit behind right now, but outside 2 weeks. Gabriel Hine, I'll see you tomorrow. How to improve holding steady on the shot? Basically a question about eliminating pin float. So a lot of this is going to be in your back tension and your draw length. But basically, you need to think about getting that front shoulder down. So I always imagine putting my front lat in my back pocket. That'll get that down. And then an even push-pull. If you imagine that if your arrow was a rope and there was a loose knot in the middle of that rope, if all I did was push one side or pull one side, the knot would move down the rope that way. If all I did was pull on the opposite side, it would move up. If I push and pull evenly, that knot's going to tighten right in the middle. So you need to push, pull, and really just work on a smooth release. And then honestly, just you see these pros that hold dead steady. It's because they're shooting 700 arrows a week. So time behind the string, there's really no substitute for it. Is there a reason to upgrade your bow frequently? My old bow seems fine. Jeffrey Schrega. Not really. If you're accurate with it and you're happy with it, there's a lot of old bows out there that shoot great. Like all the old Matthews, like from the Q2 all the way through, all those bows shoot really well. Jordan Harrop, Hamsky versus Vapor Trail. I would go Hamsky. I like the launcher better on it. I can play with the spring tension if I'm shooting a really light or really heavy arrow. Lost Arlo Ellingson, lost a twist in my strings. Do I need new strings or can I still use them? I mean, just twist them back up. LD White, good 23 size arrows for 3D shooting, indoor and 3D. Most common for indoor shooting are going to be just the Easton. What are they? They're the aluminum ones, the 23s. They're great. If you're going to shoot 3D, aluminum's not going to hold up as well. I would go with like the Super Drive 23s from Easton. They're all carbon. Black Eagle also makes one in a 23. I think Carbon Express does too. I like Black Eagle and Easton over Carbon Express though. Carbon Express's carbon is really soft and seems inconsistent. James H. coming out here to do some bear hunt. I'm going to be hunting over there too, actually. You don't need to make an appointment to come in the shop though, man. We got 4 or 5 guys here at all times, so just swing by whenever you can and we'll get you all tuned up. Dylan Barch, do I have a preferred broadhead for hunting out west or longer shots? Any good fixed blade? Like I'm a big fan of the Q80 Exodus, Muzzy Trocar. Iron Wills are great. As far as mechanicals though, they're gonna just fly with your field points, which is always nice. Even if your bow's a little bit out of tune, there's not enough there to catch wind. The key with any fixed blade is it needs to not wobble on your string or on your arrow. It needs to spin like a top, and then your bow needs to be tuned well. Because if that arrow kicks right or left at all, those blades are going to catch wind and play in the opposite direction. Thoughts, Mr. Thump 30. Thoughts on the new Easton T64 arrows? They're freaking expensive, and I don't think they shoot any better than anything else. I think you're better off with just a FMJ injection, to be honest. Chris, do I think the Grim Reapers... Oh, Adam, what up, dude? Thanks, man. Or the Grim Reaper Whitetail Special is good for elk. I would probably go with the slightly smaller cutting diameter for elk, to be honest. I think, any little added penetration is going to be good. So I would probably, like I said, I would probably go with the little smaller, the Carnivore Special. Sorry guys, my chat's lagging a little bit here. There we go. Mr. Thump 30. Hey, they're still going to be great arrows. Just don't miss. They hurt when you miss. Big Johnson ordered 400. What did you say your draw length was? 27 and a half, Big Johnson? If they're 27 and a half, I'd probably just cut them at 27. You can get away with 26 though. If you go 26, you can even put the 50 grain brass inserts in them. Get a little more front of center weight. Get your overall weight up a little bit. Adam Doughton, top 5 archers of all time. Man, Braden Gellenthien, I actually shot with him in college. If you watch any of the USA stuff, he's world ranked #1 right now. He's won pretty much everything there is to win, I think, besides Vegas. Obviously, Levi Morgan, Jesse Broadwater is probably one of my top guys. Chance Bobeff. Oh man, there's a lot of good ones out there. Steve Anderson had a big run. He actually works full time though as well, so he doesn't just get to shoot like a lot of these other pros. So, but for the limited practice he does, he has an insane amount of wins. Ethics spinning inserts, Jeffrey. I've never really played with them, man. I don't really have an opinion on them. The spinning thing. Anytime you have moving parts on an arrow, it always makes me worried. I don't know. I haven't messed with them, so I can't tell you. Ryan Keaton using Archer's Advantage. Yes, I use Archer's Advantage all the time. I like the mobile version, so rather than printing out a sight tape, I just put in all my specs and then I can look. So it just runs off the laser engraved marks. So if I need to shoot 43 yards, I can look and it says, oh, you need to be on 52.7 on your sight bar, and I run that. If you are going to run your phone, take an extra battery pack with you, one of those little portable chargers, because I have seen guys they rely on that and their phone dies and then they have no idea where their marks are. Terry Wonderly, bow and arrow. Absolutely. Wonderly was huge for a long time. He was a little bit before my time. I was only about 12 years old when he was still shooting, but yeah, he won all sorts of stuff. Same with the Ragsdales. Mounting the quiver upside down, I don't do it. I don't really notice a difference. I feel like I'm always catching my arrow on stuff when I'm walking and pulling it out of the quiver, so I don't mount them upside down. Chaotic 24.5-inch draw at 62 pounds, shooting a 500 spine arrow. You're going to want to try to get the heaviest 500 spine arrow you can. I would look at like Easton FMJs if you're going to be hunting hogs. They're really thick-hided. They're just built like tanks. Matthew, 515 grain arrow. Can't decide between the Severs or the Magnus Black Hornets. Grim Reapers. Freedom Factory, best 3 heads for elk. Man, that's really hard to say, dude. There's going to be a million answers on that. Q80 Exodus are great. Trokars, Cam Hanes killed everything with a Trokar for years. Iron Wills, Kudus, they're all great. Ryan McNichol, have you set up any Vapor Trail Gen 7 X's yet? I have. It's nice that you can attach it to the bottom limb and that they have micro adjustability. If I had one negative thing to say about Vapor Trail, it's just that the launcher doesn't have any give to it. So if you do have two, really, really light arrow out of one, you tend to get a little bit of inconsistencies just because that launcher has no spring tension in it like the Hamskys do. But they're a great rest. For 99% of hunting applications, they'll shoot as accurately as you can aim it. Gabe, how long did I work where? Todd Limburner, is a hinge release okay to use for hunting? Absolutely. If you are used to shooting with one and you have really good control with it, totally. The only thing that scares me about a hinge for hunting is that, you know, if I got an animal that's walking through the timber and I need tight little windows, it's for me it's hard to make a quick shot with a hinge. It's a little more of a process to me, and so if I need to make a really quick shot, you know, if I just roll through a hinge, my results don't tend to be as good as if I just, you know, squeeze a trigger or, you know, can just bury my hand on a thumb button and pull through. That being said, there's a lot of guys that do it and shoot great. It's gonna be there's no reason it's not okay. It's just gonna be up to you. You know, in the heat of the moment, can you control it? Adam Doughton, what is my dream hunt? Really want to go to Kodiak Island and do that Sitka blacktail hunt. I'd also love to do like a mountain caribou and moose hunt up there. Sheep hunting kind of looks cool. I don't know. It kind of looks like a sufferfest. But I mean, any good elk hunt too. I mean, if I could go hunt that San Carlos Apache reservation, oh my gosh. How long did I work at the bow rack? I've been here 5 years. Any sense to buy an Expedite with 80-pound limbs? If you can pull that much, that bow's already crazy fast. I personally, I'd probably just stick with 70. Donovan Stockton, is there a state out west better for hunting than Oregon? Yeah, pretty much all of them, besides California. Oregon has a lot of issues with predators. We got more cougars and bears than we can shake a stick at. Now we got wolves too. And then our management for our elk and deer herds is pretty poor. So lots of opportunity in terms of most of the state is open without having to draw a tag for your general archery season. But that doesn't mean there's deer and elk running around everywhere. James H., ever hunt mouflon? No, I have shot a couple goats though. They weren't mouflons, they're just like those Spanish black goats. Kamchatka hunts in eastern Russia. Yeah, those bears are crazy. They're basically a Kodiak brown bear. They're just on the other side of the ocean. X-Philly 49. You're welcome, man. Glad you're learning stuff. Thoughts on going for the QAD MX for the RX4, the limb-driven setup? Worth the switch to the MX. So the MX is nice. It's still just a cable-driven QAD though, and you're going to get way more support out of a limb-driven rest. This is for M. Reyes. There's a reason you never saw any target guys shooting a cable-driven drop away, and it's because they support the arrow for such a short amount of time, and by that I mean like 3 to 5 inches, that they don't affect the shaft enough when you're trying to make really micro adjustments to your tuning. So a limb-driven is going to support that arrow a lot longer. They're more accurate, they're quieter, there's less moving parts, they fail less often. So, you know, that MX is like $250. Just spend like $150 on like a Hamsky and run that. Zach Grog, piece of advice for opening your own bow shop. I don't know because I haven't opened one. I don't own this shop. I just work here. But I would say try and find an area where there are not crossbows. I know a lot of states allow them, but crossbows, in states where crossbows are really popular, the vertical bow sales tend to drop because, you know, if a guy can sit there and just squeeze a trigger on a rest and with a scope and everything, lots of guys are going to go that route rather than putting in the effort. Ryan McNichol, Montana Black Gold versus Spot Hog sights. Man, really 6 to 1/2 dozen or the other. What I do like about the Montanas is the Black Golds is that they actually have a first axis adjustment on them, whereas the Spot Hog does not. So everything being equal, to be completely honest, and this might make Cabe and Josh Johnson mad that own Spot Hog right up the road here. I kind of prefer the Black Gold. I think they're lighter, really good pin. I like the Black Gold. X-Philly, do I notice the difference in a 6 to 7 inch brace height? You know, when you make good shots, both are going to pound the middle. A 7 inch brace height, you'll get a little more forgiveness out of it just because that arrow gets off the string a fraction of a second sooner. So, you know, any torque you're going to have in the back end isn't going to affect the arrow as bad. But with technology now, you know, the shorter brace heights aren't that big of a deal. Mark Warner went from QAD to Hamskea, and it was the way to go. Yes, you saw the light. M. Reyes, are you going to have Chevy Girl co-host with you? I forgot Little Oakley's mama's name. Lisa is her name. I don't know what she's going to co-host, but I'm sure she'd like to get online. Although she hates the sound of her own voice on videos. It's hilarious. Any good videos or tips for setting up the Hamskea Trinity? Not really. Just center it up, run your arrow and knock point right through the burger hole, and run with it. Jim K, is a rear stabilizer worth it for hunting? So I've gone back and forth on this a lot. For me, I don't see enough change in accuracy to justify having that extra weight and just kind of cumbersome shape of having a back bar when I'm hunting. A lot of time when I'm hunting, I kind of throw my stabilizer up over this shoulder and my sight here. My bow sits right on top of my pack frame. And with that other bar, it's always wanting to roll around and flop off. Undoubtedly, they hold better, but you start getting a back bar on there and a bunch of, full quiver full of arrows. It starts getting pretty heavy. Just carrying that around the mountains, it's just, for me, it's just too cumbersome. Now that being said, if I was hunting out of a tree stand or a ground blind, I'd probably run one. Thank you, Jim K, by the way, for the donation. Joseph Barawa, what are your thoughts on PSE Super Focus? It's a hell of a bow, man. PSE finally spent money on good shooters this year because they knew they had something in that Super Focus, and they just had to get it in the right hands. And I think it's a phenomenal bow. There's a lot of guys shooting that really, really well. And they're, for a target bow, they're cheaper than like any of the Matthews or Hoyts. The Matthews and Hoyts are, they're $1,700, $1,800, $1,900. The Super is like $12. It's just because it doesn't have a caged riser. I don't know. I think target bows are crazy overpriced. I mean, there's nothing in a TRX 36 that isn't in a VXR, but they're $600 more. Chaotic, thoughts on Excel sights? I love them, man. Great sights. I've run their Carbon Achieve for years now, and it's great on my target bow. Their hunting sights are really nice too. They can get some of the ones that have like the little stops for each yardage, they get a little clunky. They take a little while to figure out how to sight in and everything, but once you get it, they're really well made sights. KOVG Sam, thought Hamskea was more for target shooting. Which Hamskea rest do you recommend for hunting? You can run them for target because you can change out all the different launcher blades, but no, the Hamskea, the Hybrid Pro Hunter, is designed for hunting. It's got a big launcher on it, so anywhere your arrow is in that window, it's going to pick it up and launch it. M. Reyes, how have you learned to control buck fever? It's kind of the same as like target shooting. When it matters, lots of people tense up and they forget the process that got them to that point. So, thinking of your shot process in your head, and then the biggest thing is just picking a spot. It's really easy to look at the animal as a whole, and so as soon as your pin just gets on the animal, your brain thinks, oh, it's there, and you just punch the trigger. So pick a spot that you're going to cover with that pin, whether it's a little dark spot in their fur or a nick or something, but stare at what you want to hit, cover it with your pin, and just stay in the moment. Don't think about the outcome. Don't think about anything except what you need to do to accomplish that. Much easier said than done, though. Pedro Viana Silva, thoughts on the Quivalizer? It's well made. I absolutely hate it as a stabilizer. If you've ever shot a long stabilizer for like target, you know that in any sort of wind, it just acts like a sail. So essentially, you've got a 30-inch stabilizer with a hood and 5 arrows underneath it, and it literally acts like a freaking sailboat. So I'm not a big fan of the Quivalizer. It's well made for a quiver, but I don't know a lot of guys that actually use it as a stabilizer. Hogfather Fast Eddie XL, 5 or 7 pin, 10 fibers. Currently have 5 pin. If you're going to get a movable sight, don't clutter it up with 7 pins. The whole point of a movable sight is you get a clear sight picture. I'd go 3 pin personally. This is for just honest. I would... they're pretty similar. The only difference between the Hogfather is that you have the click adjustment, whereas on the... So if you're shooting targets and you're an inch low, I can just click, 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 and it'll move me down, versus on the Fast Eddie, you have to just roll it. So it's hard to make those really fine adjustments, but they're both great. Andrew Tayson, thoughts on California blacktail hunting? My whole family's from like between Eureka and Redding, and they do really well hunting the Trinity Alps there. I've always wanted to do it, but just with time, I only get a couple weeks a year to hunt, so I'm usually around here. Easton Pro Comp for hunting versus Axis durability. Axis is going to be more durable all day. Pro Comps are aluminum core, so they're going to bend. I haven't shot one, a Pro Comp for hunting, so hard to say exactly, but my intuition would say that Axis is going to be more durable. Arlo and Ellingson, 27.5-inch draw, 70 pounds. One arrow that weighs about 470. I would go with like an Axis 300, cut it like 27.5, and then load it up with like 75 grains of brass and 100 grain head. 340 spine is technically what you need there, but you're not going to get to that 470 or 500 mark with a 340 spine. And if you load up the point weight on 340 spine, you're going to be underspined at that draw length and draw weight. Jeremeister, I'm at 60 pounds and don't want shoulder injuries in the future. Is this something I should worry about? I warm up before shooting. I mean, you want to pull what's comfortable, man. I mean, you don't want to feel like if you really have to struggle to get it back, that's not good, but just do like a half turn on your top and bottom limb. Bump it up like 2 or 3 pounds and just shoot that for a while, and then when that's comfortable, bump it up another few. Don't go from 60 straight to 70. Go in 2-pound increments or so. Steve, what do you think about the Garmin Zero or Burris Oracle sights? We've set a couple of them up. It looks like a microwave on the front of your bow. They're really cool sights. It's cool technology, but a lot of states don't allow any electronics on your bow, like in Oregon. So we can't use them here, so I don't have a lot of experience. We did set one up for a guy who lives down in Vegas, though. And I mean, it's cool technology, there's no doubt. It's just kind of a big giant thing sticking out there. I think to some point you still got to have some woodsmanship and skill. Andrew Tayson, you're welcome, man. Ethan Yoder, what is more important, FOC or kinetic energy? Well, they're kind of tied together. Your kinetic energy comes from the overall weight of your arrow, but kinetic energy is not what you need to worry about. Momentum is what carries your arrow through an animal. Kinetic energy is not transferred into the animal. Kinetic energy is only when that arrow is in flight. It's not like a rifle where that bullet energy is transferred. There's no hydrostatic shock or anything like that. So your FOC is obviously going to increase the overall weight of your arrow, which is going to increase your kinetic energy and your momentum, if that answers anything. I'm not one of these crazy FOC guys. All mine are like 12 to 16%, if that. Hunting Maverick, Victory, TKO thoughts. They seem like good arrows. A lot of those with the outsert, half outsert system, if you hit something hard, those can bend really easily, and then you got an arrow that wobbles, and they're hard to replace because they're carbon, so I can't heat them up and pull them out. But they're good shafts. Veteran Family Archer, hello from Fayetteville. What's up? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What's your max arrow length for a 30-inch draw? I mean, I would probably cut them at 30 or 30 and a half, but I mean, you could shoot them longer, but no need to. Wait, Factor 30 is still a good bow, yes. Donovan, is there a bigger scam in archery than the Matthews SCS? No comment. Seems kind of silly to me. The Phoenician Archer serving size for Easton. Pulling your nocks from the target. It sounds like your serving is too big. I would reserve it with like a 20 thou, either 18 or a 20. Len Van Dehe, new stand or wise guy? Oh man, I like the stand a lot. The wise guy's a great release. I have seen a few fail though, where they just, guy hits peak poundage, and even though his finger's behind the trigger, it it busts on them. So I'd say stand. Thoughts on the Through Fire? Tim Donahue. That is a crazy looking release. I have not shot one. I like the concept, but I haven't shot one, so I don't know. Have I ever done known yardage? If so, any advice for guessing yards? All I've ever shot, Adam, actually, is unknown. I've never done an ASA, known yardage. Biggest thing for guessing yardage is rather than trying to guess the yardage to the target, if you can see the ground, find the halfway point that you think is between you and the target and judge to that. And then you can even, if you're still guessing, you can find the halfway point to the halfway point and judge to that. It's a lot easier to judge 10 or 12 or 15 yards than it is like 40. So, you know, if I think it's 18 yards to the halfway point, I just double it and there's my yardage. If it's a really long target, I'll find the halfway point, then find the halfway point to the halfway point, judge that, and then quadruple that distance. Do I still use a spider stabilizer? This is KDS Berman. Do you use a spider stabilizer on your VXR? How do you feel about them versus other brands? I don't shoot a VXR, I shoot the Traverse, but yes, I still use my spider. Honestly, all the brands that are making these stabilizers in the 6 to 12 inch range, they're pretty much all the same in the sense that it's a lightweight carbon bar with all the weight at the end. The quality of carbon in a bar that short, they're all going to be stiff. You really don't gain anything from buying the ultra high modulus stiff carbon until you get the longer bars, like 30 inch bars for target. So, you know, Doinker, Bee Stinger, 365 archery, Spider, they're all going to be real comparable. Jennifer Dankert, good to see some ladies in here. Am I going to shoot Redding this May? I would love to. It's going to be tricky though because I have a bear hunt that I need to do between the last week of April and first week of May, which is when Redding is, and it's hard for me to be gone for a couple weekends in a row here. We just get buried. But I'd love to. I haven't shot it in a couple years. Donovan Stockton, what's the best backpack for day hunting? A fanny pack. No, I don't know. I mean, if all you're doing is walking to your tree stand, just anything that'll hold enough stuff. I mean, it's not like you're packing 80 pounds with it. If you do want one you can pack weight with, look at that Mystery Ranch Pop-Up 38. It can be a tiny day pack, and then the frame extends out and it can hold, 150 pounds. Wayne packed out a whole deer with one last year. Soko Forever, your thoughts on a torqueless D-loop below the knock? I've played around with them. I think it's not a bad idea. I didn't really notice any difference personally. If you don't, unless you're using a really stiff loop material or you have a really, really short loop, there's not really a lot of torque that's put into it with a normal loop. So I've never run one. Ty Willie 132, thanks brother. Nathan Ship, how would you set up an Easton Hex arrow at 28.5, 70 pounds, brass up front? Totally depends on your spine. If you're going to run a 300 spine, yeah, go brass. If not, run a 340 spine with standard insert and 100 grain head. KS Outdoors, 28 inch draw, 65 pounds. I think you should probably, a 340 would be good. An Axis 340 or an FMJ 340. An FMJ is going to give you a little more weight. Probably be in that 450 mark, which would be good. JW12, best index finger release. There's a lot of them out there, but any release that has no trigger travel and one that you can adjust the tension. So like V3 Hawk, Spot Hog Wise Guy, Stand Extinction 2, the Carter releases like the Carter Quickie, like Mike, all those. True Ball makes some really good ones as well. There's a bunch of them out there. It's all going to be what's more comfortable to you. There's really a wrong way to shoot or wrong setup to have as long as you're accurate. If you're just punching the center out all the time, I'm not going to tell you to do anything differently, Cody. there definitely is a right and a wrong way to shoot, but really consistency is the biggest thing. So if you're doing the wrong thing the exact same way every time, you're probably going to be all right. Cameron talking about spine and arrows. If you get up to 70 pounds, you're going to want to go 300 at a 30-inch draw. If you're down around 60, 340 would still work well. But I would still probably go with a 300 if you're 30-inch draw and going to be up about 70 pounds. You want to err on the stiff side of spine, not the weak. Donovan Stockton, good question. I had never even heard of a tree saddle until this last year. But they seem pretty cool. Like there's a lot of spots I hunt where, I don't want to pack a tree stand 6-7 miles into the wilderness. But if I find a good crossing trail or like a wall or something, and I just want to sit there for a few hours in the morning, it'd be super easy to pack one of those tree saddles. I'm just worried I'd screw it up and fall, knowing myself. Chad Alexander, 4 fletch for 4 blade heads. Probably doesn't hurt anything. More stabilization, the better. Alvin Hilario, any recommendations on a turkey arrow setup? Honestly, you don't really need real high poundage. Like turkeys, you need to shoot a big, high profile, expandable head. They've got a really small vital area, and so I've seen a lot of turkeys that get shot and fly away and never get found. They probably end up dying, but you want a high profile, expandable head, and just dump your poundage out of it. You don't need it to be fast. They're not going to jump your string. If your arrow, you could get it to just stay in them rather than blowing all the way through them, you'd probably be better off, because as they try to fly away, that broadhead in there is just going to cut everything up and they'll die. Let's see here. KDS Berman. Yeah, you could cut the cable if you need to. You want to be careful on getting them too short, because if they get too short and you can't get it timed correctly, you're going to be in trouble. The Magnus Bullhead 3-inch triple blade. Yeah, I've seen those. They're awesome. You aim right at the base of the neck and just take their head off. Okay, so you have your TRX-38 tuned to a bullet hole, but the sight does not line up with the string and stabilizer. Have to move the sight a little bit to the left. Totally normal. You're any setup that's shooting and sighted incorrectly, you're at rest. Your pins are going to sit outside of your arrow and stabilizer and string. When you draw back, there's inherent torque in the riser. It happens. So that's 100% normal if your sight is outside of your string. Mine is, pretty much everybody's is. If not, you probably got some crazy torque. Specific helical, Brandon Howren. You don't want to go too much. Most clamps are going to be like a 12-degree clamp, but with a short vane. Like let's say if it's a 2-inch vane that's over 6 inches. The 12 degrees is over that 6 inches of the clamp. So if you have a 2-inch vane, it's only going to be like a 3-degree helical, which is plenty. Anywhere between like 2 and 4 degrees is good. If you get too much of that, what happens is that arrow's spinning so fast that at distance, when the arrow slows down to a certain speed, you get what's called a parachuting effect. Those vanes actually catch wind, and you'll get a tailspin towards the end of your shot. So you don't want straight, but you don't want crazy helical on there either. Zane Hawkins' favorite hinge releases, probably the Honey Badger Claw, the True Ball Honey Badger Claw. I still shoot a Scott Black Hole that I've had forever. It's super simple. I also really like the True Ball Abyss, the Fulcrum. Adam Doughton, best arrow and fletching for long range shooting. I mean, smaller diameter generally is going to shoot better at longer distance just because there's less wind drift with them. But there's not really a best arrow for it necessarily. Chase Dixon, TrueFire Hardcore. Yeah, it's a big release if you're always reaching for the trigger. Shorten it up all the way, tighten up that wrist strap as much as you can, but it's definitely a bigger release. We usually sell those to guys with mitts for hands. Average Joe running a 2003 Matthews solo cam. All you're losing is speed, really, and the single cams have a little more knock travel. So there's a reason nobody's really making them anymore. I would bump up a little bit. Remember, guys, donations are welcome. Gets you to the top of the list on questions. M. Reyes, yeah, 2.5 degree offsets. It's good. Clayton Giddis, glad you're getting everything you need out of the channel, man. Have the knock-on bows been selling well, Jeremeister? Yeah, we sold like 3 last week. It's a sweet bow. We only had issue tuning one of them, and it was because it was a pretty new shooter, and with his grip, and we were working with him as much as we could, but he was torquing the bow pretty bad. All the other ones were literally a bullet hole in like 2 shots, so it's a great bow. Hunting Maverick, if the bow gets here Tuesday or Tuesday afternoon, how backed up have you been? During the week we're not real backed up. We should be able to jump on that pretty quick. Saturdays are crazy though. VXR 28, what quiver is best? Wendell Smith. I like tight spots. If you're gonna go with the Matthews quiver though, they got a 2-piece called the Q Light, and I'd go with those. Steve Pereira, thoughts on the Bowmaster press? I don't know. I've never used one. M. Reyes, thoughts on the regular gas strings versus stock from Hoyt? They're definitely better than the stock from Hoyt, but the regular gas strings, they're going to have a little bit of stretch in them. They're 452X, so what I've noticed with 452X is that you get some initial stretch, but then generally once you correct your timing, run 200-300 arrows through it, retune it, then they usually don't move for a long time. Pretty much anything's better than Hoyt stock strings though. Camden Queen, should I get a PSE 31? I don't know. Does it shoot well for you? What is my favorite YouTube channel other than mine? I have none. No, I'm kidding. Chris B is really good. I really like Chris B. Dudley has done a ton for the archery community. It's not even an issue with Dudley's channel because he makes his money off his sponsorships. But kind of the reason I started this one was because, when he's using these certain accessories, he's only talking about how to tune those accessories. I wanted kind of a more well-rounded thing on how to tune, different brands and different bows. And, we've had a lot of bow companies approach us and say, hey, we'd love to, I shouldn't say a lot. I've had 2 or 3 bow companies approach me and say, hey, we'd love to sponsor the channel and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, I don't want to be tied down to one company. I want to give an honest review of anything I get in. And so if Matthews sponsors the channel and then I say that I really like a Hoyt, they're probably not going to like that too much. Hunting Maverick, thanks, dude. I'll make sure I tune your bow up even better now. No, I'm just kidding. I'd have tuned it well either way. The best Benson Huber, the best stock strings. Prime and Matthews, in my opinion, seem to have really good stock strings. Sean Moran, 260 spine with 200 grains up front. Yeah, man, that arrow should hammer. Absolutely. TAC or AAE silent max vanes, 3 or 4. I haven't played around with the TAC vanes much. I've tuned with a couple arrows. They're really weird feeling. It feels like, I mean, I know all vanes are plastic, but they literally feel like they're like those little balls that they have in the ball pit, those really thin plastic balls at like McDonald's and stuff when you were a kid. It feels like they made them out of that sort of plastic. They're really stiff, but they are quiet. AAE seem to be good. I don't like the Max series vanes though because they're really hard to get to stick to your shafts. You have to use their little primer pen and their Max Bond, whereas the hybrids, like those hybrid 26s or 23s, you just pull them out of the package, run super glue down them, stick them on your shaft. Benefits of the solid riser on the knock-on bows, Texas State Fishing. I'm not sure what you mean in terms of the solid riser, like color-wise, or they have a little bit different cutout above the grip there, but it's the shape of it and everything is identical to just the NTN or NXT 33. Do I watch the Hunting Public channel? I do. Yeah, I love those guys. I like seeing guys shooting whitetail out of something other than a tree stand over a cornfield. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just it's been done a time or two. Hunting Maverick boning X vanes. Yeah, they're good vanes. I actually have them on my target arrows right now. They got a bunch of different sizes, but yeah, boning's always made good stuff. Ryan McNichol, do the Hamskea or Vapor Trail cages have issues with fletching clearing in a high-profile vane like Blazers? Nope, they do not. The only time we get contact, and it's always a good idea to, I like to get some like street chalk and kind of rub it on a piece of wood or something on the countertop and get some dust. Chalk your vanes and shoot through paper. You'll see if you're getting any contact there because you'll see chalk on the rest. The only time you ever get any contact is sometimes, people tune their bow at home and they just keep moving that knocking point up, 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 and up. And if the knocking point gets too high, then when that arrow comes off the string, yes, the top of your arrow will hit that cage. But it's, it's pretty rare. Oh, Cameron, my man. Top of the list. I've watched dozens of your videos over the last 24 hours. After a decade away, I've enjoyed getting to schooling on the new technology. Cameron, that is awesome, man. Welcome back to the sport. I really appreciate the donation, man. That's huge. Yeah, it's, when we started this channel, I thought there wasn't that much information out there. There's a couple channels, but a lot of people just tell you what, not why. So that was kind of the goal with this, is for people, most of my stuff is geared towards kind of newer, novice to intermediate archers. So yeah, I'm really glad you're getting what you need out of it. If you ever have any questions, hit us up on Instagram. I do my best to get back to everybody as soon as I can. I hear VXR28, I hear the Matthews stock strings are junk. Best string to replace them when the time comes. Ken, they're still just the zebra strings. Like I said, I think in terms of stock strings, I think they're some of the best. When you do replace them, I would look at the Gas Ghost XVs or the first string exit wires. Both of those I've used in pretty much no movement at all. Clint Beeson, Garmin Zero AI. They're pretty crazy sights. They look like a freaking microwave hanging off the end of your bow. In Oregon here, we're not allowed to use anything electronic on our bow, like not even a camera. So we don't sell them. But I have set a couple up, and it's cool technology. If you want to spend $1,000 on a sight, but they don't work in foggy or rainy conditions. Just like if you've ever tried to use a rangefinder in like a really foggy, high humidity situation, which is pretty much always here in Oregon, it just doesn't give you a reading. So, lowest poundage bow for shooting an elk. I believe most states have a minimum of 50 pounds. Oregon is now 40, but you need to check the local regs. You want to pull as much as you can comfortably. Can I bench press more than Cameron Hanes? Bro, I bench press Cameron Hanes. I've been training most days, but feel like I'm getting sloppy. Take days between practice. So when I was in college, we did what we called interval training interval training. So we would do leading up to a tournament. Let's say on Sunday we'd shoot 150 arrows. Tuesday or Monday we'd shoot 250 arrows. Tuesday we'd shoot 300. Then we'd take a break. Thursday we would shoot an insane amount of arrows. We'd shoot like 7 or 8 Vegas rounds. So 600 arrows, and then we would take 2 days off, so usually Wednesday we would shoot like 600 arrows, take Thursday and Friday off, and then on Saturday when the tournament starts, your muscles have got basically a really good workout and had time to recover. And I always shot my best and held my best after taking a couple days off of a lot of shooting. So I think rest days are really important. Give those muscles a chance to build and recover, and then you're better off when you get back to it. Len Van Dehe, thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Yoshihiro Hosaka, figured it out. $10 just cuz. Great info. Appreciate it, man. Glad you're getting what you need. Does your entry fee at Vegas allow you to hunt elk in Utah? I wish, man. I'd love to hunt Utah. I wish all it took was money. Well, I guess it does if you want to buy the governor's tag. Veteran Family Archer. What arrow setup do you recommend for hogs? I like a pretty heavy arrow for hogs. They're not real known for jumping the string. I'd try and get one in that 500 grain range. They're built like a brick shit house. So, M. Reyes, a beer on me as long as it's a Corona. I hear they're selling virus-free Coronas at the local bar here, so maybe I'll go there. Anybody else got anything? Been on here a little over an hour now. Even longer than that, hour and a half. I know somebody's got something. Does anybody have any good hunts coming up? Any big tags? Ryan Nickel, thoughts on Trophy Ridge? They make some decent stuff. We sell a lot of their little fixed pin sights on our kit bows. They're nothing fancy. I think the coolest sight they made was that 5-pin where you just set your 20 and 30, and as you move your 30-yard pin, it calculates the gap for your other pins. Those seem to be accurate. I've never been a fan of like the React 1 or anything like that. It's a really big sight. It's really clunky. Clayton Giddis, what sight are you using on your hunting bow? I am still running the original Fast Eddie that came out. Josh at Spot Hog, it was actually when they were first making them, and he gave me one to try, kind of as like a prototype, and I've loved it. I'm kind of resistant to change. There's honestly probably other sights out there that I'd love as well, like some of the black golds, but I've just stuck with it. Looking for a 3D target to practice at the local range. Reinhardt makes the best 3D targets, in my opinion. Bowtech versus Matthews. Both are good bows. It's hard to say. It's going to be whatever's more comfortable for you. Hunting Mavericks. I have not done any of the total archery challenges yet. I'd love to. It's just we're crazy here, like May through September. So it's really hard for me to get away for more than a couple, even a day or two. So unfortunately, I've not been to one. I've been to the Northwest Mountain Challenge here, which is like the bastard stepchild of the Total Archery Challenge. Donovan Stockton, bear is delicious, man. Hey, it gets a bad rap. It's not something you really make steaks out of, but man, if you grind it up into like sausage or summer sausage, also if you can it and put like when you're putting it in the boiling it or in the pressure cooker, can it with like some cilantro, salt, pepper, and a little bit of jalapeno, and that stuff is awesome. It's like roast beef. Oh, hang on here, you gotta go back up. Johnny Clark, thank you, brother. Thank you. How good are the Mission bows? They're Michael Langston. Mission bows are good. I refer to them as like the Toyota Camry of bows. It's reliable. It's easy to shoot. It's user friendly. You just don't have all the bells and whistles. They're by no means a speed demon, but they're really easy to shoot. And I don't know why my voice keeps cracking, but they're easy to shoot, and they're good little bows, especially at the price point. Benson Huber, thoughts on the Deadlock cam system? It's a cool technology, man. If you notice, a lot of companies are trying to kind of copy what Mathews did with the top hat, where you're actually shifting the whole harness right or left as opposed to leaning the cam. Takes a lot of issues with like the yoke stretching out of the equation. My only concern with the Deadlock is that if it came loose at all, if you didn't constantly check it, it could mess with you. But Andrew Chorba, 6 points for Iowa bow tag. Nice, man. I'd love to come hunt whitetails. Never done it. Camden Queen, how heavy of an arrow should you shoot? I wouldn't worry so much about the weight of the arrow. You need to worry more about spine. I'm not sure what your draw length is, but you're probably going to be between like a 4 and a 500 spine, which is probably going to put you just right about 400 grains. If you wanted to go heavier, shoot like an Easton FMJ 400. Benjamin DiMaggio, Obsession and New Breed bows. Well, Obsession is done. They went out of business. And I've never shot a New Breed, so I don't know. Gabe, should I put a laser on my bow? No, but you should put a shark with a freaking laser beam on its head on your bow. You might be too young for Austin Powers, but... Ryan McNichol, what's the best, coolest flagship bow? In terms of... I was talking about this earlier. In terms of who changed the most from last year, I think PSE. I think that Mach 1 is probably the most impressive jump. Really it under promises and over delivers on speed and all that. It actually shoots faster than what it's rated at, which is awesome. DiMaggio, Expedition bows. We used to sell Expedition. They're good bows. I don't really have anything bad to say about them. KDS Berman, dumb question. No such thing. Hybrid, binary, single cam, dual cam. What is the Mathews cross-centric cam considered? Mathews is its own deal. The cross-centric cam is it's almost like a dual single cam bow. Like the little AVS system almost acts as an idler wheel in sorts, and then the cam runs off that. But it's kind of its own thing. Oliver Westland, thoughts on the Valkyrie arrow system? Not a big fan. I think shooting a 600 plus grain arrow for deer and elk is just kind of overkill. It's like using an elephant gun on a gopher. And then this is just my experience, but they sell those shafts for like $300, and they're supposed to be plus or minus 1/1000th of an inch. We put it on our shaft reader here, and it was like 6 or 7 thousandths, which is like a gold tip hunter. So personally, I think they're a little overpriced for what they are. Benjamin DiMaggio, thoughts on the Valkyrie broadhead? I think it's a pretty good broadhead. Looks tough. A lot of cutting surface there. Andy Eberhard, any opinions on the Trijicon AccuPin single pin sight? Haven't used it, but generally the only downside with the single pin sight is that, in a hunting application, you have to move it for every yardage. So in a quick one, quick decision, if your sight's set at 20 and he's at 40, you're going to have some trouble. Day 6 arrows, they seem all right. Kind of the same deal. They're supposed to be plus or minus 1/1000th. and we had to kind of cut from both ends before we could actually get them into that spec. But I think they make good shafts. D-loop materials, BCY is what we use. They got a couple different ones, but if you're shooting a handheld, you want a pretty soft material because you're going to be turning that hand. We use Gibbs Archery for our index style. It's a lot stiffer. It won't collapse on you at all. So for hunting scenario, if you got a hook style release, you don't have to look down. You can just feel it and hook it with your thumb. And you can help kind of steer your peep with it too if you got peep rotation. Best D-loop tie method. There's really only two. You got torqueless or normal. I like normal. The new PSE bow I was talking about, it's the Carbon Stealth Mach 1, Micah Langston. Consistent high right miss for right-handed shooter and a thumb release. Usually a high miss is going to be Sean. Usually a high miss is going to come from one of two things. Either you're anticipating that shot a little bit, so you're starting your follow through before the shot's actually fired, so it's pulling your front arm up, or you're collapsing a little bit on your back end. So stay strong in that back wall. And just keep building pressure on that button until it fires on itself. It should startle you a little bit at first. Eventually that won't happen. The human body we want to control that explosion. We basically are bracing for impact when that bow goes off. So you need to break that. Usually a high right miss like that for a right-handed shooter is a little bit of anticipation. So you're pulling your front arm up, by starting your follow through before that arrow has actually released. Yeah, I do. .71V. All those arrows are just ones that, we get in the tune box here. Sometimes arrows get broken. They're range arrows, so they get broken by people. So I try to keep somewhere in that 520 to like 380 range throughout that. But yeah, I should probably just build 5 to use every time. Thoughts on the expandable crossover stabilizer? Everyone I've seen is broken at some point. Also, if you shoot, if I was to take off my 30-inch bar and put on a 12-inch bar on my bow, it impact in a completely different spot. So I don't really know why there's the need, other than you can play around with it to figure out where you like it. But once it's there, I'm not ever going to change the length of it because it's going to hit in a different spot. Dental floss is serving material? No, do not use it. Doesn't work. Breaks. Pain in the ass to get off. Don't do it. Dudley for president. Needs to lay off the Tito's a little bit first. Best budget site and rest, Kelly Akers. I'm not sure what you mean exactly by budget, but an awesome site is Rocky Mountain, the 5-pin driver. It's all micro adjustable metal construction. It's like $79. For a good drop away rest, look at that. The Trophy Taker Smackdown Pro. It's like $125. 33 versus 30. Brian Kimbler, thoughts on the 33 versus 35 for hunting with a shorter draw length? I'd probably go 33. 35 sweet. Obviously for target at that draw length, really either one's going to shoot really well for you. Probably going to see a little more speed with the 33 though, so I'd probably go with that. Clayton Giddis, do we sell stuff online? Yes and no. We don't update our inventory very often, other than like all of our apparel. Pardon me, my apparel that gets on there, like all the bow rack shirts and hats and stuff like that. But in terms of like, new releases and calls and all that, we don't have anybody dedicated to the website. So unfortunately, the best way if you want something is just call the shop. What's the best arrow, most consistent spine? Gonna be a lot of debate on that. Row true, but generally, Easton, Gold Tip, Black Eagle. Those are the big three. If you look at what people win with on a consistent basis, that's pretty much it. Most forgiving target bow, probably that TRX 40. Any long axle to axle with a high brace height. TRX 40, Hoyt Invicta 40, Super Focus. Those are all going to be good. Donovan, waxing bowstrings, yes or no? Very minimally. I probably wax my strings 3 times a year. We get it all the time where guys, every time they shoot, they re-wax their string. And the problem with that is If it can't absorb it, it becomes saturated, and A, your string gets really heavy, which slows it down. B, it gets really sticky, which is, I hate working with sticky strings, and that stickiness will actually attract more dirt. Like when you're walking around, dust and stuff will stick to it and actually wears out your string quicker. So unless it looks dry, like you see those little white fuzzies, don't wax it. Chad's Taxidermy. Oh, I lost you here. Chad's Taxidermy. What's the most sought after game in Oregon? Is taxidermy a dying art? I haven't really noticed it is a dying art, but definitely elk. Elk are probably the most sought after here. X-Filet 49, 6'2", 30-inch straw, mostly hunting out west, looking to pull 60 pounds. If you have to pick one, black 3 or black 5. I like the 5, personally. I was really, really impressed with that bow. It aims like a target bow. It's extremely well balanced, really efficient with a heavy arrow. Like I had to double check it after my review on it because I was like, there's no way that a 532 grain arrow is going 278 or 280 feet a second, whatever it was, and it was. So really impressive. Lincoln Havens, I see people with their nose on the string at full draw. If it's past the string, does that mean you need a shorter draw length? Could be, yeah. Could also just be a head position. Lots of people, they come in, so like I'm gonna use my fingers, the string. Lots of people, they just duck like this, and it's actually just an issue of bringing their head up and getting the tip of their nose on the string. But if it's coming by your nose and like up high on your cheek and stopping way back here, then yeah, I'd say you're probably a little long on draw length. Best youth, young adult hunting bow. Probably the Hoyt Power Max. Do the strawberries hold any bears? Yeah, there's a few bears in there. Not a lot. You're better off going a little further north into like Sled Springs or Snake River, Winnehaw, any of that stuff. Or just get the Southwest tag. There's a lot more bears on the coast than anywhere. JT Martin, we're working on it, brother. Mission Switch, yeah, it's a great bow too. Micah, if you were looking at, young adult hunting bows, they're great because they go from like 20 to 70 pounds and out to 30 inches. So that'd be a good one. On your M Reyes on your jig, it sounds like something's just not working correctly. I've used that same one. It's fine. It's plastic, but it seems to work fine. But yeah, you definitely need your vanes spaced evenly. It sounds like you're just getting a little too far in or out of the click there. What do I think of the 2020 Evo 35 for 3D and target shooting? I think it'd be a great crossover bow. You're going to get plenty of speed for 3D. You're a little shorter than your average target bow at 35. Most are going to be like 37 to 40. But it's a great all-around bow. Do I recommend soft knots on D-loops? By soft, do you mean like not tightened down really tight, or... Arlone Ellingson, I actually do a full bow build in the Precision Academy video that we're coming out with. Like I said, it's just taking way longer than we expected with all the editing and everything. But I may down the road a little bit. I don't want to put something out there that people are going to pay for and then put it for free on YouTube. Because, this is how I make my money, is tuning bows. So, best two-piece quiver. Most two pieces are going to be brand specific. So like a Hoyt two piece will not fit a Matthews bow and vice versa. But I really like that Matthews Q-Lite or the Carbon Solo from Hoyt. Brandon Howren, 2020 bow comparison with all the main bows anytime soon. Man, I might be able to pull all the footage together and make like a condensed version showing all of them. It would be kind of cool to do that, but that's a long video. People quit watching after like 15 minutes, I've noticed. Thoughts on Sever expandables? Interested in the all titanium? People seem to like them. I haven't shot anything with them, so I can't tell you. Pedro, what sidebar do I use? My bars on my target bow are bee stingers. They're actually pretty old. I kind of want new ones, but they're just, I got a 30-inch front bar and a 12-inch back bar. I'd probably either go with spiders or conquests, though, if I was buying new ones. Will do, M. Reyes. Chase Dixon. Generally just the top, yeah, just, I mean, maybe like a degree of offset just to get it to seat on there well, but really with the helical clamp, you know, I pretty much just run the top and bottom even. Ryan McNichol, thoughts on Bear bows? Their top end bows are pretty nice. They seem to shoot well. You know, I think they make most of their money though with kind of their more affordable like kit bows that they sell in the big box stores. Oh, Hunting Maverick. In terms of tying in above and below your nock, with any softer material loop, I always tie in. Even on the hunting setups we do, we use a stiffer loop material, but once we get it set, we stretch it. Once we get the peep rotated and everything coming back how it should, we stretch, you know, really cinch that loop, and then we actually tie through the knot with a piece of serving, and that way it won't collapse. So it kind of does the same thing as tying above and below, but I still like to tie above and below my nock. How do you send money, Sean Moran? I believe at the bottom of this chat, there's a little $ where you type in your messages right below it, and I think you do that, and then it just asks for your card info. Legitimately, Axel or Excel. How do I get a sight tape for my Excel AccuTouch without having numerical references? That's a good question, actually. I'm not sure you can build one on Archer's Advantage without those numerical references. That's tricky. Landon Hall, do I like indoor 3D more? 3D. I hate indoor. It's just a necessary evil. Indoor is just frustrating because, like on a 3D target, if you have a bad target, you get to go to a new target. It's a total change of scenery, different distance. It's easier to hit the reset button. On an indoor target, like you literally turn right back around and look at the hole you just missed, and then have to shoot it again. So mentally, indoor is just a marathon. Dusty Bowhunter, I am going to do some turkey hunting this spring. My cousin actually got some killer property just south of here, a couple hours, and it's loaded with turkeys. We shot a couple there last year, just with shotguns because I didn't have a blind or anything. But this year I got a little ground blind that we're going to actually just in a week or so here, I'm going to go down and set it up and slay some turkeys, some Merriams and some Rios. We can kill 3 here, so. Serving material, it's just this BCY. This is the 20 size. You can use 18 too. 21's a little big, but 18 or 20 works great. Pedro, the EZV, oh, never seen one work. If I can't put my dot on what I'm shooting, I have a really tough time hitting it. Michael Langston, we are in Springfield, Oregon. All right, guys, I'm gonna do 10 more minutes here. So it's 7:35. I'm gonna get home at 7:40 or leave at 7:45 here. So if you got any questions, hit them up here. Like I said, if you donate, it bumps you to the top of the list. Gabe, which is better, guns or bows? Blow guns. Knocking material and method, Jared Koval. You mean like the serving? Or like tying in the D-loop? I tie above and below my knock, so three knots above, 5 knots below, and then tie my D-loop on either side of that. Yes, Tom Vandenhall, or Vandendale. I've shot FMJs before. They're great. Pretty much everything in North America, any arrow between like 440 and 520 is going to be more than enough. You know, if you're going to do something crazy like maybe I don't know, moose or bison or something like that, you could work on bumping that up a little bit. Something you think you're going to be close. Heavier arrow is obviously going to help, but I've blown through everything I've shot with like a 450 to 480 grain arrow. Dama Blaze Entertainment or Dome Blaze Entertainment. Do I swap strings right away? I usually, on Matthews, I don't wear them out, but I shoot them for a while with the stock strings, and then before they're completely shot, I put on new ones and keep the stock strings as backup. Landon Hall, yes, I do a lot of fishing. We got a lot of steelhead and salmon here. Well, not a lot of salmon, but we do have salmon and steelhead here, so. And I do a ton of fly fishing for trout. There's a bunch of good lakes in the Cascades here you can pack into and catch 18, 20-inch natives all day. Oh, Pedro, man. I appreciate it. That's huge. Dusty Bowhunter, I have not shot a whitetail. We do have some in the eastern part of the state here, but it's not. We have blacktail and mule deer mostly. I've never done the whole whitetail thing. Jeremeister, 386 grains for an elk. Yeah, I would say that's probably too light. I mean, if you hit them right where you're supposed to, it's going to be fine. But if you got anything other than a perfect broadside shot, 386 grains is, you know, it's going to get stopped pretty easy by any ribs or anything like that. Captain Vinny, man, you know, Oregon's blessed with a lot of private or public land. I don't have a lot of experience asking people. Generally, though, like I do a lot of bird hunting around here, which is all on private land, like duck and goose hunting. And I've always noticed that, you know, rather than just asking them if you can hunt there, if you offer like a work trade thing, lots of farmers need help during the summer. So if you know, repair a fence or clear brush or, you know, fertilize or something like that, usually they're more receptive rather than just, you know, and they don't feel like they're getting used. Mike Quiz, you shouldn't be getting, I don't know what kind of rest you're shooting, but you shouldn't be getting any contact with the drop away no matter how your vanes are rotated. Adam Doughton, what 3D target do you hate the most and what do you do good on the most? I hate turkeys. I hate the turkey targets, and I hate, Reinhardt makes this one called the baby bear, and that thing just, I hate it. I always seem to shoot like coyotes really well for some reason. The way they paint them, they've got these little black specks, and generally the 12 ring is like an inch and a half below that black speck, so it kind of gives you an aiming reference. Any dark targets though that they put in the shade, so like a lot of these shoots, they'll put like a boar target that's in the shade, and then your stake is in the sun. So especially with a scope, like you get back and all you can see is black in your scope, and those are a pain in the ass. Thanks, Pedro. Ben Suntkin, any lighted nocks I like? I think Nocturnal makes the best one, but I've not had great luck with lighted nocks in the past. Row True, fixed blade or mechanical? A good fixed blade and a good mechanical are both awesome. You know, mechanicals seem to do more, like just the animal just looks visibly hurt, but a cheap mechanical is not going to do you any favors. So go with like a Grim Reaper or a Rage or a Sever, something like that. How KDS Berman, how often do we do the live streams? We've been trying for a couple weeks, but it's actually stupid how difficult it was to get it all set up. But now that we're doing this, you know, maybe we can make it a I don't know, once every couple weeks type deal. Russell Sharp, I haven't tried the VAPs. We've tuned up a lot of those day 6s. They seem all right. They're not as straight as they say they are, though. They're not plus or minus 1/1000th, at least not the ones that I tested. QAD MXT, Captain Vinny. It's still just a cable-driven rest. I prefer limb-driven all day. Cable-driven rest, you know, if you get any stretching your cables, it's going to change that timing. It may not drop anymore. You know, the limb is always going to stay consistent. So, Kill Carter again. What's more important, dominant eye or dominant hand? Definitely dominant eye. There's a lot of people that are cross-dominant, meaning they're right-handed but left eye dominant. Unless you can close your dominant eye, you need to shoot with your dominant eye, because if you shoot both eyes open, let's say you're left eye dominant and you're right-handed, if you try to shoot with both eyes open, your dominant eye is going to take over at some point. You're going to shoot one like 3 feet to the left at 20 yards and not know why. Michael Langston, are turkey decoys necessary for turkey hunting? I've always used one. Turkeys aren't real predictable in where they go. They don't take trails every day like deer. So you know, if you don't have something to attract them, it can be pretty hard to kill them. Brian Villanueva, the name of the shop is The Bow Rack, and it's just thebowrack.com. But like I said, other than the apparel that we get, it doesn't get updated a lot. So I would just call if you need anything. Big Johnson, that's right. All right, guys, we're down to 2 minutes. 2-minute warning in the red zone. Hit me with your questions. We're at 7. We got 2 minutes. 2 minutos. Uh-oh. Looks like I'm frozen here. Is it laggy for you guys right now? Russell Sharp, yeah, I'd like to open one somewhere else, but it's tough. Bradley, thank you, man. Appreciate you. Best affordable turkey decoys? I don't know. Primos, probably. KB Allen. Prime Black or VXR? Whoo. Both are awesome, man. I think the VXRs are a little easier to tune, but those Prime Blacks are really nice. The VXR is definitely smoother on the shot. Not a lot, just a little bit, but both are accurate, quiet, fast. They're sweet. 3 fletch or 4 fletch. Why? Spencer, for any field points, like target stuff, 3 fletch is going to be plenty. If you're running a broadhead, 4 fletch definitely doesn't hurt because it gets a little more drag sooner, so it starts steering that head. Get a little more stability out of the arrow. Are carbon arrows worth the money? Heck yeah. I don't even know anybody that shoots aluminum arrows anymore for hunting. They bend. Pizza or burger? A pizza burger. Or a burger pizza? No. Burgers usually. Thanks, Russell. What's my hunting arrow setup? I run an Axis 300 cut at 29.5 inches with a standard insert and 125 grain head. 4 fletch AAE hybrid 23s. Brian Villanueva, no, I did not end up installing the option, although the option is a great head. All right, guys. I appreciate all the love. That was a successful session. Hit me up on Instagram if you got any more questions. If I didn't get back to you here, it's inside_out_precision. I try to get back to you as soon as I can, but I got a girlfriend waiting with dinner for me at home, so I better get to going.